What's up?
Hey, how is it going?
Good, it's all good.
Yeah. Welcome to the Artandhustle Gallery of Conversation. I'm happy to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I'm going to try to keep this like
Yeah,
30 minutes, kind of like rapid fire questions, just so
cool.
we get to know about you. So let me know, like, first of all, like, how has like COVID and like
Mhm.
quarantine like affected you and your creativity?
Yeah, I mean, it's been challenging and distracting, I think. Um, there's been so much going on in the world. And I think the hard thing when it comes to anything creative, you want to, you kind of feed off of energy and then that kind of inspires you to create sometimes. So it's hard to kind of to get energy from a phone sometimes,
Yeah, yeah.
when you're in person with people. I was actually just having a conversation with someone yesterday about just how do you test what works, what doesn't work, what's good. A lot of times when I'm performing in this space, I just look at people's faces, see how they interact
Yeah, yeah,
and react to what I'm doing, and that kind of guides me to say, okay, next time I'm going to do that again, or I'm going to do this differently.
yeah.
So you don't have that energy to kind of ping pong off of.
Mhm.
So I felt like a lot of times I was kind of pushing myself to try to bring myself to that place, um, even though it wasn't there, even though the energy wasn't there. I had to
Mhm.
kind of imagine, which
Yeah.
was a whole other thing. So, uh, but I've also, because we've been more streaming and digital, I've been trying to learn little things that would make my streaming experience better.
Yeah, yeah. So are you doing special streamings or special performances online or anything? Like what are you working on?
So during the pandemic, I did a live stream with News 12,
Hmm.
um, did a live stream. There's this company called So Far Sounds, and we did like a live concert.
Yeah.
And so and then what I've been doing lately too is also kind of workshops and presentations with schools.
Oh,
So
okay.
um, which has been pretty interesting too. But so lately I haven't been doing it much because things are starting to open up a little bit, especially out on Long Island. So
Yeah,
I've been picking up some gigs and stuff. So I've kind of live streaming has taken a backseat for the most part.
yeah,
But um, but here and there I have, and so I started to try to figure out how can I make the quality of my performances when I'm doing it live better. So I
yeah.
started figuring to have the music go direct to the phone rather than playing it on a speaker and then going through the phone mic and
Mhm.
it just not good. So little things like that I was starting to pick up on and learn.
Yeah, yeah. So give us a little background of yourself and your training. Like how did you start with like your music?
Yeah. So Uh, I kind of like as a kid, I like anything active. I always just did things, sports, and I just like to play, I guess.
Hmm.
So, and not to boast too much, but I kind of I do pretty well at most things I put my mind to. So then, um, when I started doing music, I was excelling in my class. I knew I was like top of the class when I was even starting off with the recorder, and
Hmm.
then I learned the clarinet, and then I switched to saxophone, and there I was in the jazz band, and so really, what really gave me, oops, hold on, I think I lost my feed. Okay,
Well, that's
um,
good. They showed us the picture.
so what really kind of like got me going was school. My teachers in school kind of, they're the ones that taught me really, and
And then you grew
um,
up in Brentwood, Long Island?
mhm.
Okay.
And Brentwood had a really good music program. So I really just did that all the way up to high school. And when I started getting my last years of high school, I started writing and started learning the piano a little more so I can produce for myself.
Yeah.
And then when I got out of high school, I started figuring out how can I produce. And since then, I've been popping up and doing shows and kind of, working independently. And maybe about 3 years ago, I come, I started doing it full time,
Mhm.
where I'm not really uh, doing much else for to meet my financial needs
Yeah.
other than music. So that's kind of a blessing. It's a challenge, but it's
Hmm.
nice that I finally got to that level.
Where you can actually focus on your arts and get money and get paid for it, right? And sustain yourself.
Right.
Hmm.
It's a give and take because then you got to do things. Sometimes you do things in music like I do. I've done weddings and banquets and things that they're not necessarily part of. I don't know if that's going to necessarily push my art career too much
Yeah.
as a music,
Yeah. You got to pay the
but
bills though, right? Those pay the bills.
exactly. And it's practice too. It helps me
Yeah.
learn things. And it's better than, doing something else that's not related to music that I could be spending the same amount of money, maybe getting paid more or less, but it won't be benefiting myself musically. So, um, but it's a challenge, but it's a blessing not to be able to do that.
Yeah, and plus, like, I think you'll be able to network with somebody else that you had just met, like maybe in that wedding, they heard you and they're like, "Oh, well, I love your music. Maybe we can, have you here." Or, "Oh, I know somebody who's in the art shows," or and stuff like
Yeah,
that, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I'm happy. Like, our little bit of background about me and you is that we met
Mhm.
through Dylan in
Yeah,
Gowanus, right?
yeah. That was
How
a
did
long.
you, right? That was a while ago. That was probably 2016, actually.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you come across and meet Dylan?
So I don't know if you remember Diego, who was at the show too.
Yes, yes.
So me and him grew up together in Brentwood. It's funny because we've been friends since like second grade,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
but we got cool more towards high school, and only because we used to skateboard together. We
Mm.
music and art, we kind of did it. Like he was doing graffiti, I was like writing rhymes, and but we weren't really taking it too seriously. But once we got out of high school, we started taking it seriously, and then we seen like that. Like I seen that he started painting on canvas. He saw that I was out. I went to school for music and started playing.
Yeah.
So we got an opportunity to work together. Since then, him and I, we just started uh, popping up to shows where he'll showcase his art
Yeah.
and I'll perform. We actually started doing. We had a friend that DJ'd, and the three of us would put on these shows out in Long Island where we'd rent out. Especially we were only like 19, 20,
Hmm.
where we couldn't get into places. So we would just rent out almost like warehouse kind
Really?
of rooms and stuff like that, and he'd
Have your
show.
own like showcase, have your own parties?
Yeah, it's funny because we were actually making good money for what it was back then, but
That's awesome. How much did you charge at the door?
like
Ten
10,
dollars
15.
$10, $15?
Yeah, but it was like all the people that came, like they wanted a place where they could go drink and hear good music and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and it was nothing like that on Long Island.
Hmm.
Even still now, there's still a little bit of a void of these artistic experiences on Long
So,
Island.
so you were doing your own art hustle shows back in when you were 1920 then. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so Gowanus, there was actually a guy Jack Cox. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
too. So I think he met us through something out in Long Island, and he hit up Diego, said, "Hey man, they got this event. It'd be cool if you came through and showed your work." So then, and I guess I don't remember how the conversation came up about music.
Hmm.
Probably, oh, it'd be nice to have a musician here. And
Yeah,
Diego said, "Oh, Dudley could come."
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's when I came through, and it's interesting too. I was just talking to a friend about that because I was reminiscing to that a while ago. But the way that I performed then is
Mhm.
very, very different to the way I perform now. Because I've been I think that day I played guitar and I might have been just playing rapping to some tracks and playing my sax. And then I started, I think you've seen, yeah, I think even then when I came to your events, I had the loop pedal set up. But even now I've started to, build up my equipment. So now I could do it a little more seamlessly and a little more
Oh,
controlled.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's how I got to Gowanus, and that's how I met you and everybody else there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, like Gowanus actually was my first art show that I curated like my
Wow.
first solo show, you know.
That incredible. It was like, and it was like, what was it? 2 weekends, right? In a row or something.
It was 2 weekends in a row, and they ended up liking my setup in the room that they just kept it on as long as possible. So I kept it on till
Yeah.
the very end.
That was an awesome event. And I met so many people there.
Yeah,
Dylan, Risa and Boogie and, um, man, so many
Rez.
people.
There was Rez too.
Yeah.
No, and Mateo.
Yeah. Mateo. Yeah. He was there too. I forgot.
Yeah. And
But
then
yeah, that
later on, we got you to come to my Art and Hustle shows. What did you think of those when you were there?
was a great time. That was when what was that in Brooklyn? The one
Yeah,
that we
in Bushwick.
in Bushwick. Yeah, that was we did it a few times over at that space. What was that Image Gallery, right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. No, that was an awesome time. And you had what's his name was doing the live art on the floor.
Pinocchio.
Tokyo. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um. Yeah, that was great. And Teo came through. We rocked out. That was a great time. That
Yeah,
was.
it was definitely fun. It was very artsy,
Mhm.
very like it was probably like kind of one of your events then.
Yeah. Cool. And I think that's what's like, and that's why I appreciate the Art and Hustle because it's just like, uh, you know, it, the arts is just like any other, business, I guess. And if that scene or that industry is only going to do as well as the people that push it. So
Exactly.
especially in spaces where it's lacking, that's why I love doing it because I love being in places um, where especially like underserved areas where it's like they don't get to be exposed to experiences like this. So
Yeah, yeah,
you see that on the faces of people that come in, they appreciate it
exactly,
more,
exactly, exactly. Like it just so happened to like that I came across like Janessa and Carlos, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was able to network with a lot of people on Instagram, and like my criteria to be on the show was like it was not being like judgmental of anybody. You have
Yeah.
art, you've done art. That's art is perception of whoever is like I am the person who's like looking at it. So I didn't judge anybody. Anybody who wanted to be in the show,
Yeah.
I opened the doors to anybody. So like there was a lot of people who I came across that were like, this is my first time being able to show my art. Like I'm just doing this as either a hobby or something I'm trying and it's something new. And I'm like, great, if you're doing it and you love it, then let's like put it out there and let's get you
Mm-hmm.
seen. So it was great to be able to have a lot of people's like first shows at the Art Hustle show.
Yeah, because you never know what that, those, like I said, me and Diego were renting out places because we didn't have places to go to. We didn't
Yeah.
have people giving us opportunities to do it. So we just made our own.
Yeah.
So you don't have, by doing that, by providing that service, that can make someone say, you know what, I'm going to do this more.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
learn from it.
There was like a really young kid who's like never done it, and he actually was able to sell one of his like pieces. I think it was either
Yeah.
Biggie or Tupac or one of those that he had done,
Mm-hmm.
and he sold it. So he was like ecstatic to be able to like get see his art on the wall and meet all these people and network and then sell a piece. So
Yeah, that's a win-win.
otherwise you wouldn't have be able to have that like space to be able to show it. So it was nice to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do that.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah. So, do you have like any other like regular 9 to 5 that you do, or you're doing your music?
The only other thing that's kind of steady, I teach privately as well. So, the students, I teach sax, flute, piano. So that's the only thing. It's kind of diminished a little bit more. I've just been doing more like studio work. And especially now, once everything shut down last year, everything got pushed, especially for private events where everybody wants to do them this year because they didn't get a chance last year or the year before that. So, so really a lot of just, popping up at private events and public events this summer has been the heavy load of what I've been doing for work, I guess.
Yeah. So do you have like an advice for like anybody younger or to your younger self?
Yeah, I would say, I would say if I guess the advice or the route that I took, I don't know if it's good or I don't know if it's for everybody, but for me, I was just like, I want to, I had to make a conscious decision that I want to, if I'm going to take a job, it has to contribute to where my trajectory, I guess. Mm-hmm. So like, if I, got a chance to work at a pharmacy, that's not necessarily going the right direction, mm-hmm. even if it's steady, even if it's convenient, it may not be. And so I actually, my mother got remarried in 2011. And so my stepfather, he owns a music store. So, which was very convenient and lucky for me.
That's perfect.
So I started working in the music store, but I was helping him with repairs and sales. And those aspects of it weren't really helping me as a musician, as a performer. It did help me get knowledge of just, I guess, what, I guess the needs of a music store and things like that. It didn't necessarily help me get, go the right direction, go the right route. So I think as soon as when you feel that, this job is contributing or not contributing, you have to make those decisions. It's in those stuff, even now, I know I have things that I can choose to do more of and do less of. So that way it'll, keep me going down the path that I want to be. Because you don't want to be, doing something for so long. And then you're like, man, how did I get here? I didn't even realize it. I was just on autopilot and never made that decision to go somewhere else.
Yeah, like I totally can relate to that. I mean, I was doing fashion. Like I was in my fashion job for like 14 years till last year of March when COVID hit and I got let go. So after that, it's just like, okay, well, is this really the path that I want to continue taking? Like originally it's like, okay, well, I need a job to pay the bills. I'm married, I have kids. But then like, you're just doing that constantly. You got on that wagon of just doing the same thing. But is this really what's fulfilling my passions? You have to eventually question that. So that's why I've always done, like, I'll do my 9 to 5 because I got to pay the bills. But then, when I go home, there's always like still a voice inside my head, a gut feeling of like, I still want to do more. I still want to do more, So like at some point I started like doing cards and then I started doing my art and then I started doing art and hustle. But then I really liked enjoying like helping people and giving them a voice at those shows, so which is amazing. So like even with the people that you meet who are learning to play, instruments and stuff like that, that would be a great place for them to possibly learn and like perform at an art hustle show too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to have like, those fulfilling moments, because I think that anybody would want to do a job that doesn't just pay the bills. It fulfills them,
Yeah.
And so
that's like the struggle. Like, do you struggle to like make sure you're doing something that you love? Like, are you going to put up like an album or learn new instruments to like keep fulfilling those passions of yours?
Yeah, I always got to find different ways, different things to do. I know, like even now, I've been busy and doing a lot of gigs, but they can get kind of stale if they're not really, sometimes those aren't fulfilling either. It's very, and it sounds kind of like, I guess like just ignorant in a way, because I'm like, at least I'm getting paid to do, by doing music. I don't have to do another, thing, but it is still a lot of work. And I have to realize that, what fulfills me, what makes me happy, what makes other people happy. So, sometimes it comes down to, I got to record some new music. I got to learn a new way to perform. So these different things that keep everything fresh and makes me inspired to keep going, inspires other people.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite like artist or musician that you love right now that you're listening to like on repeat or anything?
Right now I think everybody's listening to Donda and Certified Lover Boy. They're trying to listen to Drake and Kanye. But right now I love Kendrick Lamar, and I love the artist that he's working with. He works with a lot of really dope jazz musicians. One of my favorite is Robert Glasper. who's a, you know, incredible jazz pianist, and he's worked with everybody, worked with so many people. Other than that, I like Anderson .Paak. I feel like he's
Yeah, I love his stuff.
yeah, I feel like he's a good model for me, where it's, you know, someone who's very musically inclined, and a I guess a musician in, you know, himself, more than just a singer.
Yeah.
So he finds ways um to present himself as a singer, as a songwriter, and as a musical performer too, you know, which I think that can be difficult. I think a lot of people that are, you know, that play an instrument, sometimes they have to either, you know, put that off, or just not do it very much, because they have to be the front man.
Yeah.
So it's both. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really dope example of what that could look like.
That's awesome. Now, do you have any favorite apps that you're using all the time to like push your music and everything out? Do you use Instagram more, or do you use like Facebook?
Yeah, I've always, you know, I use Instagram a lot, and probably just because, you know, I was there when Instagram started, you know,
Yeah.
where TikTok, it's very strange for me to kind of transition to TikTok, because like that's not really what I started using, you know, and that I know the best. Uh, so Instagram is, and for me, I don't really push myself to create content as much as right now, at least. I push myself to just get better and get more efficient at what I do. So that way, when it's time to create content, then I could post it up. Most of the time when I'm posting on Instagram, I'm posting up flyers, I'm posting up pictures or videos of my performances. I'm not necessarily, you know, getting too creative, you know what I mean, when it comes to, you know, making a social media experience, because I focus more so on the live aspect, right? At least for right now.
Yeah.
So Instagram has always been the easiest, especially I love also with how easy it is to find people through the geotag. Because I could say, you know, if I went to an Artandhustle event and I was like, you know, I didn't get a chance to network with anybody there. Let me just the geotag, see if anybody posted things that when they were there last night. Oh, there's that person that I saw in the crowd that night. I could connect with them there. So that's been pretty cool. So I'm always on there. And also I feel like you have, you know, Facebook's cool, but sometimes Facebook, you don't have really, I guess, hip people that really like listen to, you know, that are going out looking for new music, that want to, you know, they want to hear all the stuff that they, you know, were listening to when they were younger. So I think that it's important to try to be involved with apps that are involved with people who, you know, are really advocates for music and art, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I I think my entire network started with Instagram, because as soon as like I had gotten a large amount of work with my canvases and everything, I was like, well, how? I think I'm ready for a show, but how do I get into a show, or how do I get into a gallery? And the only things you can think of is like the really stuck up galleries who really don't care about people who are just coming up. So I was on Instagram and saw that Dylan was like having a show and needed some artists. So I'm like, hey, I'm an artist. I got some work. Like maybe.
I think people forget, like, Instagram was started as like mostly a photography, like just to post photos, as opposed to like Twitter where it's just words, you know, and as opposed to Facebook where it's words and photos and videos and everything. So because it's mostly visual, and which is kind of a bad thing in some ways, but it allows people to just like, you know, when they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, rather than, you know, me writing out, hey, I'm having an event this weekend. If you guys want to come through, hit me up, and it's going to start at this time. Here's a picture with all the info right there. Or here's a picture of what it looks like when I perform. So it kind of, you know, it's a shortcut, and it kind of, but in the same way, it's kind of a downfall, because it's like, it makes the crowd, or the listener, a little more lazy, where it's like, I don't necessarily need to go to the event. I don't necessarily, because they're going to post the pictures. They're going to post, like, I'm going to see that. Whereas before, back in the day, before we didn't have this, you know, this much documentation, it was like, I gotta go because it's happening and I'm missing out. I can't
Yeah,
see it.
yeah, you got to be there, otherwise you're gonna miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's still true. It's just like, it's just that, you know, you get a little glimpse into it that makes you feel like, okay, that's all I could do right now. That's as much as I'm going to invest into it right now.
yeah,
So it's, I think when you're using Instagram, especially, or any other site, is how to entice people to invest rather than just, you know, giving everybody, you know, your work without, you know, having them give back. You know, I think that's
yeah.
important.
Yeah, it's very important. And also like with my artwork too, like in the shows, like it's completely different as opposed to like the photo and actually being there, being able to see the art, meet
Yeah,
people
yeah,
and everything. So yeah, hopefully people will get enticed by some of these images that we're putting up, and then like definitely come to one of our shows and come to one of your events, or hire you for something,
yeah. It's hard to explain that feeling of being in the room surrounded by creatives, surrounded by good art, and you know, oftentimes at your events you have good food, you have a whole bunch of things going on that you can't even, there's no way to put it in a photo or video. You
Yeah.
have to and experience that, you know.
Yeah, completely. I really appreciate you taking the time today and chatting with me.